Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Great afternoon, stupendous afternoon, glorious afternoon here on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia. Best show ever, 610-632-0975. Everybody's in studio today. Let's get right to our opening statements. And we start with the word of the day. And the word of the day today is surprise. Yes, and boy, is it a pleasant surprise that we're now just a few days away from Game 1 of the World Series. And surprises sometimes are bad. Sometimes they're good. A child being on the way, that can be both, depending on the circumstances. Surprises can be a lot of things on this great planet, on this planet Earth. Surprises are something, but I just can't help believe that this is the best surprise in Philadelphia sports history. Like that I'm going to go out on that limb because I've been racking my brain, and we're on the high still. We're going to be on the high all the way up to Game 1. I'm not coming down. You got sports every which way, every kind of day. In fact, take a breath right now, because then you're right back at it. Wednesday, the Sixers are back. Thursday, the Flyers. Friday, you got Sixers and you got the Union on Sunday. It's going to be a lot of sports, so try to get some rest this week, because come Friday, there'll be no more sleep for this city for about 2 weeks. None. So let's start right there. But this is the best surprise in my sports lifetime. And it's not just what they did in the series, because all of us thought they could beat the Padres, but I've been looking at it from the whole macro level, going through the journey through the entire season. Ricky Bo, I'm glad you're here with us today with the ups and the downs of this whole year. When you think about different points, different markers throughout this year, it's an incredible surprise that we got here. Thank God we did. But goodness gracious.
Wow, it's ridiculous. I was walking in with Broads, and I was like, dude, how did they get here? How did this happen? But I mean, that's what makes it so great, is that it's like every game is a surprise to us now. And now all of a sudden you expect there's expectations. They have to win this thing now. Right. They've gotten there. It's been a great ride, but nobody wants this ride to end. Is the biggest issue that's going to happen now. I look at this season. And when they fired Joe Girardi, this team was in the middle of nowhere. They had no direction. They didn't know where they were going. And all of a sudden, Rob Thompson comes in, and these guys looked themselves in the mirror and took a complete turnaround. And they actually played really good baseball. Although there were some bumps in the road, especially in September. Again, we started feeling like, here we go. You jumped off the bandwagon, but you're back on in full force. And right now, I mean, you're 4 wins away from being world champs.
Right. Hunter, a lot has happened in your life during this baseball season. You were not a married man. No, you were not a married man when this season started. When Joe Girardi got fired, you were still technically, quote-unquote, single legally. I'm saying legally, you were.
Legally.
Look at where we got. Look at the surprise that this is, and it's a pleasant surprise.
It absolutely is. If there was no DH in the National League this year, we wouldn't even be close to this position. You lose Jen Scordo for a bit of time as well. You're the added wild card spot. The Brewers had no backbone, and I'm not here to take shots at the Phillies. I'm just saying these are details that got us to this point that we are right now. And even that ninth inning, not only did, and I'm talking about the ninth inning against the Cardinals in Game 1. Not only were they down 2-0, but Rhys Hoskins struck out in the first at-bat of that inning. So now you're down to the final 2 outs. And you get walks from JT singles, Bryce walks, these guys walk. Alec Boehm gets hit by a pitch. Sosa's come around to score. Jen Scordo gets 2 RBI. What if they lost that Game 1? What if they fell in Game 1? Would we even be here? It's amazing to think about how quickly it has all turned and how everything had to fall into place the way that it did.
And it's great. This is not to take anything away. And even the 3-10 stretch in September. 3-10 stretch in September of this year. And Bryce Harper comes back in August from the thumb. and is a bad baseball player and then gets it together, win in game 2 of the wild card, and you haven't been able to get him out since. Like think about this story right now. Before we dig into later in the week, we'll dig into the series. We'll dig into the predictions and the X's and O's and what needs to happen against the Astros. All of that's going to be covered. But right now, think about the journey to get here as a fan. And then people go, don't you feel bad? No, I don't feel bad about anything. All year, what I did was I took what the Phillies were giving me, and I responded. That's what I'm always going to do. I'm never going to be the type to go, oh, it's okay to lose, go 3-10 in 13 games. No, that's not okay with me. But when they do well like they're doing, it is just undeniable how magic this has been, this run. And it all comes, when people talk about it, I think for years, years, decades, people are going, when they think about this Phillies team, this is the moment that I think we're all going to always remember.
Suarez fires. Pop fly. Right field. Segura's out. Castellanos out. And the Philadelphia Phillies are going to the World Series.
That right there. When Ranger Suarez, Club Tyrone member, comes into the game. That's not the moment you guys were talking about. That wasn't the moment everybody's going to remember. Because for me, clearly the biggest moment was when Ranger Suarez, game 5, back against the wall, middle base, and he shuts it down. That was the moment we were all unanimously, right?
That's all he had out there left in the bullpen when you think about it. Were you really going to bring Hand in that situation? The answer was no. Ranger comes in, and we know he's done it before. I mean, that could not have worked out any more perfect. It really could have.
It could not have. I'm exaggerating slightly.
I don't think you are.
That's Max Scherzer stuff, though. Like, to a degree, when Max Scherzer's on a team and you need a closeout at home to go and now move on to the next round, who do you go to? You go to the guys, give me the ball. I want it. I don't care if I'm supposed to start game 7. I want the ball now so we could send our team to the next round. And here's Ranger Suarez.
Ranger.
And look, I don't think any pitcher gets to that bunt. I don't think the bunt was smart, but not many pitchers are making that play.
Ranger should have a Gold Glove. He's not getting one this year because he didn't have quote-unquote enough innings, which is kind of funny to me. But, I mean, you look at the plays he's made all season long on the mound. He gets off of the mound about as well as anybody in baseball. And you go even further. You talked about the bunt. I mean, what seriously, what are you doing? You're giving up an out in that inning?
It's unbelievable. But in all seriousness, Jen, you could go ahead and cue it up. I will never, ever, 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 for the rest of my life, forget this moment right here.
On the 7th pitch, Harper hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
Joe Davis with the call of his life there.
I called it.
Yeah. Well,
I called the area, too.
Yeah, well, that's good on you. The crazy thing for me is Harper stunk in September.
He was bad.
It wasn't all I'm saying, he stunk in September. Think about everything that had to happen for this team to get here. And now I'm not ready for the ride to end, but we'll talk about that as the week goes on. Right now, I want truth serum. I want everybody telling the truth. When did you start to believe that this could really happen? Not when we hoped. We all hoped they would do this. Obviously, this is the goal every year for all our teams to get to the tournament and get to be one of the last 2 standing. That's always the goal. In fact, that's something we got to start pushing harder with all of our teams. Like, we're not good until you're this good. We're not content until you're this good. This is what we demand. But when did you start to believe? Because I got to be honest, for me, the way they played, even during all the good times after Joe Girardi got let go, I never thought they're going to get to the World Series. Then they play against the Cardinals or underdog. I thought they could beat the Cardinals.
I thought they could beat the Cardinals. I'll say that. I
thought they could beat the Cardinals. But then to beat the Braves, not just beat them, but beat them in 4.
Yeah.
And then you play the Padres where you go, okay, they can beat them. And they beat them in 5?
I think it was Saturday's game when they got down 4-0, and then they came back and scored 3 in the first, right?
Yep,
so they made it 4-3. I said, They're going to the World Series. That was my first thought when that was going on.
So Saturday was when you started to believe. So that's what I mean. This is such a good surprise, Hunter. When did you start to believe that this could happen?
I thought it was during that Braves series. So before this postseason began, I thought they could probably, just like you guys said, get through St. Louis.
Yeah.
But then you see a real team. But when I saw them demolish the Braves, it wasn't really close. They had one good starting pitching day out of that series for Atlanta, and that was with, Kyle Wright? Other than that, it was really all Phillies. They dominated that series. And when you saw San Diego win, I think the Braves are a better team than San Diego. So once I saw that matchup, even though they were a hotter team, I still thought that Atlanta maybe had more individual talent as a whole. And I'm like, well, if they could beat the Braves, then yeah, I could see this going the whole way. So it was really, once maybe you got a little Rhys Hoskins bat spike, maybe it was somewhere along like the lines of him dominating. That's where I saw it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Booney says that it was when they lit up Strider in that Game 3 against the Braves. That's when he knew it was on. So we if we're being honest, we'll get Jen after the Twitter poll. We'll find out when she started to believe, because she's the most optimistic out of all of us in general. And now time for the Twitter poll with Jen Scordo. Hello, Jen.
Hello. So that's what we're going with the Twitter poll today. At what point did you start believing that the Phillies could make it to the World Series? You have 4 answers. Start of the playoffs, Rhys Hoskins' bat spike, Bryce Harper's home run, or were you there all along? Those will be liars.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you say you're there all along, you're a liar.
So what's leading the early vote?
Early votes has Rhys Hoskins' bat spike at 66%, which is where I am. That's when I started to really feel it.
I buy that. Here's the weird part. Okay, we already said we all believe they could beat the Cardinals. Now, the way they did it with the Game 1 in the 9th inning, like no one saw that coming, but we all believe that. We all agreed that the Braves were going to be tough, so we thought. Like the Braves were the better team over 162 games. Okay, once they get past them, here's the weird thing. My mind instantly went, they can beat the Padres.
Yeah.
My mind didn't go World Series. Even though beating the Padres meant World Series, my mind didn't click in World Series until the Bryce home run.
It was
for some reason.
It was almost like forbidden words.
Yeah,
don't say World Series until they get there, because once I got on the post-game show and I was thinking to myself, they're in the World Series. This team made it to the World Series. How? Not really sure, but they're there. Isn't that what matters? I think this is the type of trip that's actually better that we're taking than if you were in first place and just kind of cruise all the way through. I think this is better.
Well, it is, except
it's like a surprise party instead of a regular party.
Yeah, no, it is, except if you can become a dynasty. That's the one thing this city hasn't ever really had. You had back-to-back with the Flyers, and they got back in the late 70s a couple times, and they didn't win it. Because you usually need like 3 out of 4, 4 out of 6 to be a, quote, dynasty.
The closest we had was the McNabb era, was constantly getting there but couldn't secure it.
Right, they didn't win it enough. This city doesn't get dynasties. The only thing better to me than this would be a situation where any team, okay, let's say that 07 through 11 team
that's another one.
had won in 8 and then won again in like 09 and then won 11. Like they won 3 in that time.
I hate to say this, that team got lucky that the Red Sox didn't beat the Rays. Rays.
I thought
year.
it was the Yankees.
I thought it was, I'm pretty sure they lost to the Yankees in 09. They beat the Rays, but I think the Rays beat the Red Sox.
You could probably go through no matter what sport it is, that champion. You could probably go through how they got there in the conference championship, if we're talking about football, whatever it is, and say, well, if this happened or that happened, it could play out differently. Because you could do that with the Eagles, too. The year they won, wasn't that the miracle at the, not Meadowlands, the
in
Minneapolis?
Minnesota.
Yeah, the Minnesota miracle. So everything is somewhat going to be able to go back on.
But there's always, you're right, there is always something that kind of sticks out, because think about this. 2011, the Phillies had 100 and whatever wins. They were unbelievable. They were by far the best team in the National League. Think about this for a second. The Cardinals snuck in on the last day of the season, if you remember, because of that was the year where everything went haywire on the last day of the season. And I believe the Phillies were playing the Braves on the last day of the season. And if the Braves would have won, the Phillies would not have been playing the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And they end up losing to the Cardinals, which is odd.
The other part, Booty's right, the Eagles Super Bowl run had a lot of elements like this in it, starting with the Wentz injury. but also Howie not drafting well, and every single free agent he got was great that year.
Yeah.
Like the odds of even the Phillies, as good as Schwarber was, Castellanos for the most part hasn't delivered. Like so, for example, he didn't hit at a higher rate as Howie did that year. Where if this was the Howie year, you'd have got the 46, you'd have got 37 from Schwarber. You would have had, who knows? Like Familia would have worked out. Like think about all the different
he
stuff.
was even here.
That's what I mean. Like this year. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when I say surprise, I'm not saying that any of us are saying that it's a surprise they beat the Padres. It's a surprise when you add everything up that this team, with all the ups and the downs and the bumps, actually got here. Like that to me is just, when we look back on it, we're going to go, what the hell was going on? Like Girardi would have played Didi all the way through, and we never learn about Stott this year.
Didi had one home run, by the way, for this ball club.
You're like,
I mean, they had Didi, they had Odubel in center field. That was just bad.
Like, and even Marsh, look at the play he made on Friday, where they said it was an 87% chance, according to the advanced metrics, that would have been a hit.
Yeah.
And he got to it.
He gets great reads off of the ball.
You can see why he's a finalist for a Gold Glove. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins a Gold Glove. It's just so many things. And I'm really wondering from the people, when did it become real for you? Because even though I thought they were going to beat the Padres, I didn't even think World Series till Harper hit the home run. And then I'm like, oh, my God, they're going to the World. I was just like, beat the Padres.
The one thing that's been missing, it's like, where's the blow-up game?
Right.
You haven't really seen one. You're kind of waiting. Where's the blow-up?
That was supposed to be Friday. That was supposed to be Friday.
Right.
And they scored 10 runs.
Oh, they
can't blow up, you scored 10 runs.
I mean, coming back in that first inning was fantastic. That place was going nuts.
No, I was going to say, you were supposed to have the blow-up game. The difference is, on that given night, your offense actually woke up. I thought the team had Rob's back because they tried to get a little too cute with the falter stuff. And now Connor Brogdon
that wasn't cute at all.
No, but Connor Brogdon was the one to kind of keep it afloat. Who would have thought that would happen?
The Brogdonian.
It's unbelievable. 610-632-0975. Jack in the Poconos. Oh, talk about Phillies tickets. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Jack?
Yeah, how guys? And answer that question, I'd been there all along. I was spring training, and every year I go down. And actually, Bailey Falter was like my main man. So I don't think I'm all right, but
Jack. Now listen, we love you, Jack. Like we would all from the bottom of our hearts. You mean to tell me when Joe Girardi was manager and they fired him, and Rob Thompson comes in with zero managerial experience? In that moment, you truly believed then that they were going to the World Series?
I'm an eternal optimist baseball fan.
Jack, it's okay to be human. I'm saying we agree unanimously that we're all overjoyed that they're there now. The question is, Jack, in all seriousness, when did it become real for you? Like, wow, this team's going to the World Series. You can't tell me when Joe Girardi was here, you thought that because they were way under 500 and they looked terrible at that point.
Yeah, I honestly can't go back to the exact moment because I never gave up. I honestly didn't. But
okay.
He sounds legit about not giving up.
Yeah, but Jack's probably, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but you watch next year, you're going to think they're going to the World Series, and then the year after, you're going to go to the World Series. But I don't think Jack ever thinks anything other than my team's going to the World Series. Is that correct?
I decided in spring training, actually. And there are years I've gone down, and I said, well, this isn't going to be our year.
So do you watch every game those years? How do you enjoy?
Oh, yeah, I still watch them all.
That's one hell of a
you could say this. Think about this at the beginning of the year. I thought they were going to be really, really good.
Oh, I did
before
too.
the season started.
And that's why we were pissed off when they were sucking, because we think they're closer to this than what they were giving us when they were playing like slop.
And
that 10-6 game is exactly what I pictured of the Phillies.
Right, but built into that, you had to think at the time the Castellanos was going to hit 33 bombs, not 13. Show ever 610-632-0975. What it is a surprise, and we're talking about that. Obviously, this Philly season is a surprise. When did it stop being a surprise for you? And we got a surprise during the break because FanFest is coming up on Saturday. So we're going to have a big Eagles/Phillies pep rally. Eagles versus Steelers. Obviously, World Series Game 2. There'll be all these things that we're celebrating on Saturday. And we get the surprise that Hunter Brody, we've been having the theory after we weren't invited to the wedding.
True.
And then other things that perhaps your significant other hates us. Your now wife. You've been together for many years. And this is your first fan fest as far as a VIP player.
Yes.
Last year you were like a supporting cast member. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
And now she's not coming. It's a surprise, and we can't help but think that it's partially. And I understand people that hate me. A lot of people do.
I don't.
Right, but Jen doesn't understand it.
I don't hate you.
Thanks, Ricky.
I don't hate you either, Tyrone.
This is just ridiculous. I don't hate you, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Your wife does, though.
No, that is,
Your
Very
wife
much up
definitely
in the
does.
air, though, to my right.
no. Let me lay this out, okay? So FanFest was scheduled for a different day.
Yes.
And when we thought it was going to be that day, she planned a 90th birthday party for her grandmother at an event. There's like a hall. So it's like, okay.
Very sweet.
That's
It goes-
very nice.
Well,
Very nice.
FanFest
Seems like she's a good person.
She doesn't hate her grandmother.
Like us. She loves her grandmother.
Yeah.
Who loves everybody. But how are we supposed to now maneuver through this when FanFest gets moved to that date?
Wait a minute.
just too
What time
convenient.
is the party?
It's noon. It's noon to like 4.
There's an hour on the other end.
She's going to have to break down, though, because she rented the hall. You have to take the tablecloths off the table.
not
Right,
fine.
got
I
to clean it
swear,
all
you
up.
want me to get you pictures of
You're
the party?
missing a 90th birthday party for a relative. That's sad on your part.
Well, now I'm the one that's the bad guy here.
I guess it's
Definitely,
really both
yeah.
of you.
How did this flip to me?
That's Ricky.
Horrible that you're missing a 90th. You don't know how many more birthdays than 90 years
Oh,
old.
God. Now this is
Goodness
ridiculous.
gracious. You know, I
Them
just can't
Phillies,
believe
though.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get back on track, people.
There it is.
Now, see, the Heat got a little bit.
He wants no part of it
a little
anymore.
bit, yeah. Tom in Alabama, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Tom?
Yeah, Ty, how you doing?
All right, man. How are you?
Doing well. And you were thanking the big man earlier. Do you mind if I said something nice real quick about God? Thank you, dear Lord, God of gods, for making Bob Melvin the manager of the San Diego Padres.
Oh, I'll allow it. Yes, he did some questionable things there. The bunt, there's so many things, but also,
The hater thing was ridiculous.
what are you saving him for?
I don't know. You had him warming up for something.
He's left-handed. The hottest batter in the postseason is left-handed and up with a man on base. And
He was warmed up.
He's warmed up and ready.
Who's he up for?
What's he up for if he's not up for Bryce Harper? Then 1-2. Okay, he did throws the changeup, and he's a two. The reliever, Suarez is a 2-pitch pitcher. He throws changeup, fastball, and that's it. Harper even said at that point, I just sat on the fastball because that's his best pitch. So instead of throwing at 2-2 another changeup, hoping that Bryce chases it, he then throws a 2-2 fastball that Harper puts in the seats. Are you kidding me?
That take was the craziest take. That is so hard. 99% of people are swinging to that change up there. That is so important. I want to get into his head. I wish I was a fly in his brain when he was at that at-bat. That was such a special take. I don't even think words can describe how hard it was to lay off of that pitch. That looked juicy. That looked like he would be able to cream it, and he didn't bite on it at all. It's crazy. Now, I want to get to the bullpen point real quick because Suarez didn't allow a home run to a lefty all year, so it's not as if it is a horrendous idea to have him in there. But as a manager, your job isn't to put your team in a fine position. It's to put your team in the best position. And Hader, even though Suarez isn't a disaster to have up there, Hader struck out 8 consecutive batters to that point. 8 consecutive.
Yeah, he had turned his season right back around
So
again. I mean,
he
he's
didn't do it.
gone both ways. He was really good, and then boom, and Veerling ran into him, and then that was the end of him for 3 months. But he has turned it around. He did turn it
And there are
around.
people who got mad at me for pointing out throughout the entire series, I thought that they weren't careful enough with Bryce Harper. I'm a Phillies fan. I'm very happy that they weren't careful. But I'm trying to put myself in Bob Melvin's shoes. I'm sitting there with no disrespect to Castellanos and Bohm, but right now they're the majority singles hitters. Harper's hitting it doubles. He's hitting it out of the park.
Yep.
If I'm picking a guy to be careful with, Harper's getting nothing. And if Castellanos and Bohm beat me, so be it. I'm talking about just as an overall approach. The fact that Melvin, at bat after at bat after at bat, my guess is they looked at the September scouting report and never adjusted out of it. Because you couldn't get him out in September. You can't get him out in October. Why did they keep on? Forget just that moment, because maybe you felt like you had to. There was a man on base. You didn't want to put another man on, blah, blah, blah. But throughout that series, they kept pitching to Harper, and he kept making them pay, and he never adjusted out of that.
Especially against that Suarez at bat was special in the sense that he was locked in. That's the only way you could even look at it. He kept fouling the ball off, and I'm like, he's going to get one. He's going to get one. And man, if he didn't barrel that ball, that's when he's going well. When he hits him out to left center field, that's when you know he's locked and loaded. And man, oh man, he didn't miss that. How about his run around the bases? We haven't said much about that.
First he looks and he does.
Goodness,
the motion, which is now the city's whole thing. People in the streets walking around with their jersey doing that. Go slow. But anyway, they're doing that, and then Harper goes around, and then he goes in the dugout. I did that. Even he was shocked.
Surprised, right?
He was shocked he did that.
I think that's probably one of those moments where you're almost outer body.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just kind of running around the bases, and you're like, did this just happen?
See, it didn't look that way. Watch it. Rhys Hoskins, when he spikes the bat, that to me is sort of when you black out and you don't know what you're doing.
That to me was redemption.
Yeah, the depth. I think Harper did. I think he was shocked. Like, oh my, I think he floated around the base.
I didn't think that only because when he got that changeup, I thought he knew he was going to do that. So I'm kind of stunned to see that he was stunned because I thought he knew he was going to do it after that changeup. I just thought he knew he was going to do it.
It very well could be the case. I'm so happy it happened. I just cannot believe. Why not 2-2 throw another change?
I want to relive the 3 minute span of that at bat right after he hit. I want to relive that excitement of jumping up and down, screaming. I mean, I thought I was going to collapse.
I was hugging strangers.
That's the best, isn't
it? High five, hugging strangers.
I also hug strangers, and I don't usually hug strangers.
It's a big step.
Well, I got to tell you, we were in the studio.
Did you hug the people around you?
Oh, no, we were just,
get a good
everybody was
squeeze?
just jumping up and down.
I did do that.
I will tell you this much. Tyrone's been in there. We have these little TVs way up on the wall.
Yeah.
And one of them is the Jumbotron. Now, you got to understand, if you're watching at home, you're watching it on TV, it's 15 seconds different.
Yep.
So I'm watching the Jumbotron, and it's Bryce Harper's face in his helmet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it goes off, and I see fans jumping up and down. I'm like, no way. I start like getting up. I'm like, I know it's going out. I know it's going out. Boom.
When Embiid made the game winner against Toronto last year, we watched it on the future camera because we couldn't wait for the feed to get to it. So we watched it, and then we were jumping up and down before the people.
Oh.
Yeah, but this is obviously a bigger moment, but future cam is the best. If only more people can have access to it.
Yeah, right? That's amazing.
Future cam is
He went
awesome.
deep. Ruben's swearing all over the place. It was unreal.
He does that?
Oh, yeah, he's got some cuss in
I
him.
just cannot believe it. In totality, just how it happened. I just can't believe that Harper got so many shots at it throughout the series. I'm like, sooner or later, they're going to be real careful with them and say, hey, Castellanos, if you beat us, we'll tip the cap. And that moment never came. So I get, even first and second, if you were to be unconventional, you bunt it in the next half of the inning, first and second, to get guys second and third. Be careful with Harper first and second. You get Castellanos out, you get Bohm out, you preserve the lead.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Don't let that guy do it. Don't let that guy do it.
What are you thinking pitching to Bryce Harper? I mean, I understand if you're going to pitch to him, you can't middle away. You can't do that. You have to, if you walk him, you walk him.
Right. That's the way I'm looking at it. Instead, 2-2. You thought 3-2 and you feel like I can't walk him, which I wouldn't approach. Okay, fine. Throw that same tough changeup that he was. Again.
You laid off of it once. You're probably not going to lay off of it a second time.
Throw that again. And if he hits that changeup out, God bless him.
Yep.
But if you, I don't care how hard you throw.
You know what happened? That Suarez thought that was my best pitch.
Yep.
And he spit on it. I need to do something else.
How many times have we
exactly
seen Bryce swing out of his shoes on pitches that were significantly worse than that one? That's why I'm just so amazed. I mean, this guy, the heavy swing that he has, how aggressive it is, it's very violent. That's the word that's always used when watching him swing. I can't believe we didn't see that on that pitch because I really believe that 99% of batters give it their all on that pitch.
Especially
I would think so.
Lefties had done that.
And 2-2, you're not looking for a changeup.
No, so
and if
throw that again.
I mean, there's a good chance you swing through that.
I'm just saying, you must throw another changeup there. And then at 3-2, fine. But at 2-2, to throw that superhero a fastball, well, you get what you get. Do not throw the superhero fastball.
No.
Jose in Gilbertsville, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
What's going on, gentlemen? Hi, Jen. Everybody good today?
Doing good, man.
Well, I started to believe in that ninth inning against the St. Louis Cardinals game. I feel that inning is what started the mojo for the team. I feel that inning just got everybody going. got the city going, and I started to believe that this is a possibility that we could come and make it to the World Series. I have an 11-year-old son, and he played baseball for a couple seasons, and wasn't really his sport. He needs that more fast-paced sport, the soccer, the basketball. And on Sunday, my son sat with me on the couch, and he started watching the game with me. And when Harper hit that home run, he started screaming, "Dad, we're going to the World Series. Dad, we're going to the World Series." And I was like, "Son, we are. We are." And it's just amazing what's going on with the team right now, with the city. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. And the surprise, to your point, Ricky, makes it sweeter because no realistic person in September, when they lose 3 of 13, are thinking this team's going to the World Series. No. A month later, they're in the World Series. It's just unbelievable.
Come on, our expectations were
amazing.
Our expectations were if they get there, this is great. If they win a series, okay, we'll be happy.
Yeah,
but this is way past that.
Way past that. And we'll talk about later in the week about what our expectations should truly be. We'll get to that. We're still basking. Okay, the sun came back out. We're basking still. But we'll get to that point where it's like what we should think from here. But it's just, think about 3 and 13. When they lost that game to Washington, that day game, on the first of the doubleheader, there wasn't a fan in America at that moment who thought World Series. You could try to say you were on board. You were on board for them to get the playoffs. You were not thinking World Series when they lost that first game of that doubleheader. And look at them now.
You know what's strange about this whole thing, too, is because there is a negative view on the Houston Astros because they cheated and all that, and because this Phillies team is fun and the fan base is fun and nothing's negative about it, it seems like everyone's rooting for us. And when is it that this city has the entire country with their... And I think Bryce Harper, there was always this narrative that he was a pest and annoying because he came up in the national...
He's taking care of that.
Now they're seeing the polished professional version of Bryce Harper that we see all the time that might bore me, but the common fans that live in different areas, they don't see this side of Bryce Harper that much because he now has to speak after all these games. So I just can't remember a time where Philadelphia had all the support nationally that they're getting. And it's pretty cool.
It is different. It definitely is different. I mean, even all the announcers that they've had in these playoffs have turned. About 2 games into each series, they've all turned and praised the Phillies, which is odd to hear.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
And even like watching football coverage a little bit on Sunday, it's any mention of the word Philadelphia or the Eagles, then those people pop in and say, "Oh yeah, well look at Philadelphia right now," and then they get into a little bit with the Phillies too. It's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Matter of fact, everybody in Philly is obviously rooting for him, except I think Jalen Hurts has to root for the Astros.
Yeah, he does.
And you know what? If he doesn't, I would think less of him.
I agree with
I think
that.
He would be a fraud, yeah.
Now, I always had beef with AI with the Dallas thing because he's from Virginia. He's from the Houston area.
Play it up a little bit.
He's got to root for them. So I will be glad, and that's why I'm glad he went to the Sixers game, because he's like detached from it. He can't root for the Phillies. That makes me like Jalen Hurts more. The AI thing, AI got away with that because he's AI. Yeah. If AI was Eric Snow, people would have vilified him for rooting for the Cowboys. But he's AI. He should have been a Washington fan, truth be told. But
what about Maxey?
Maxey also can root for Houston. That's where he's from. I think, like, your childhood doesn't leave you. Like,
if we went to different cities, we'd still have this in our blood.
If I was doing sports talk radio in Houston right now, I'd be talking about the Phillies.
I still think it's hard for guys to come in here. I mean, they're from all over the country. I think people tend to look at sports players. Well, they're an Eagle. They should root for all Philly. That doesn't happen.
Although Kelsey is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Kelsey is.
I was sitting with him.
There you go.
He's fantastic. By the way, his wife, nice as can be too.